Hey guys, I know that you're here for the podcast episode. Thank you so much for your support. Real quick, I wanted to tell you about my business. That's STSG Marketing. When it comes to social media, it's a must for your business. If you're not doing it, you're missing out on tons of new clients and a way to engage with your old ones. So it's just super important. That's what I do. I can create content for you. I can manage your social media for you. I can coach you on how to grow your business through social media organically. If that's something you want a hand with, I would love to help you. Cruise over to my website. That's stsgmarketing.com. I would love to help you. Now let's get into the episode. Today's special guest is Mary Laske Bell, PhD. Today we're going to talk motherhood and marketing with her.
Sky, the service guy, staying up late at night, doing podcasts all the time, talking about service, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got the sales, do we got the knowledge to make a bill? We just paying bills, all we know is time will tell. Sky, the service guy.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm doing great, Skyler. Your intro is amazing.
Thank you. Chris Jordan, his artist name is Jordy. He's on Spotify and SoundCloud. He made that for me. He's one of my fans, and I'm a huge fan of him. He also has a graphic business, so hopefully I can have him on later this season. But today we're here to talk about you. Mary's the owner of the Busy Bell, a boutique email marketing and copywriting agency for 6, 7, and 8-figure personal brands, coaches, movement makers, which I love that word, movement maker, thought leaders, influencers with a background in membership sales. Mary helps her clients make more money online by commanding authority, deepening relationships. She also consults on offer creation and overall business strategies, helping her clients find extra revenue hidden in plain sight. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to have 3 main points for the episode. The big 3 that I want to focus on, and obviously anything we talk about along the way is fair game. But I want to get your journey from academia, because you are a doctor. You're our first doctor I've had on the show. So thank you for breaking that glass ceiling for me.
You're so welcome.
I'm legit.
I do what I can.
I got doctors on my show. That's as good as it gets. So we want to hear about your transition from that to marketing leader. I also want to talk to you about your work-life balance between your business, between marketing yourself, and motherhood. You're juggling a lot of things. So I think there's a lot of men and women out there that can learn something from you. And then finally, I want to take a deep dive into your business and answer all my favorite W's, which are: who are your clients? What is the ad method, and why they should work with you, and how to get connected with you. Sound good?
That sounds great. Yeah.
Perfect. So let's start in the beginning. You received your PhD in sociology.
Mm-hmm.
How do we go from this promising career of being a doctor to being a marketing leader?
Well, it's funny because it actually starts before I earned the PhD, which was when I was at the end of my undergrad program. I was sort of in an off year. Like, I was 1 semester off from everybody else because I had transferred schools at some point. And so my friends that I was in class with, that we were like, we took the same classes every semester together. None of them were looking for jobs because they were going to graduate a semester behind me. So I was sort of in this cohort by myself, and
I know
didn't really, and I didn't really feel like I was ready to graduate. I definitely didn't know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, right? So figuring out a career at that point was really scary. And I just kept kind of trucking along. And one of my professors was like, "Hey, have you ever thought of going to grad school?" And I was like, "No, I never would have thought of that." And she said, "I think that you should apply to our program." I was like, "Okay, well, I haven't applied for any job, so I'll apply for grad school." And I got in, and I told my parents, I was like, "Well, I'm not going unless I can get an assistantship, to pay for it." And when I got the letter that said that I got the assistantship, I cried. And
Oh,
my
wow.
mom cried and she was like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you." And I was like, "She does not know why I'm crying. I'm crying because I'm like, why am I doing this? What am I doing?"
Right. She's a
Um,
proud parent and you're scared to death.
yeah, I was scared to death. I was like, because I didn't know anything about, grad school. Um,
Sure.
and just the whole ending of that phase of your life, the end of undergrad, that's like a big pivotal moment in your life, and it's scary anytime you go through a transition like that, right? So I was
Right.
just freaked out. But then I got in it and I was like, this is cool, this is great. And then when we got close to the next transition, which was, okay, you're going to be done with grad school, you're going to graduate, you go on and get a job. I was like, no, 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 this is not what I wanted.
Right.
um so yeah, I had to have a really difficult conversation with my dissertation chair to let him know that I was going to finish the degree, but I was not going to go on to academia. And I didn't have anything else lined up. I didn't know what was going to be next. I just knew, if I'm on a path that doesn't feel good,
Right.
and it's not just the fear of the unknown, because everything is unknown, right? It
Right.
wasn't just the fear, it was, no, this is not right. I have to get off of this path, even if it disappoints people or makes me feel a certain way about my success or abilities, right?
Sure.
Uh,
Sometimes we're
so
our own worst critic.
yeah, yeah.
Let me
So
ask you,
yeah,
why do you think we put so much pressure on ourselves as young people when we're going through that transition, especially somebody like yourself? We spent a lot more time on education than the average person, where it's this is what I'm supposed to be doing with the rest of my life. Why do you think that's a thing that we put so much pressure on ourselves to figure out at such a young age?
yeah. So I kind of think of it in two different ways. One is like my sociologist brain that
Right.
says there are these social norms that we all abide by in order to live, collectively and get along, right?
Right.
Like there's these social norms and expectations for behavior and actions and all this kind of stuff. And then there's the spiritual woo-woo side of me, if you could see my background, like
Right.
a meditating skeleton with moon phases. Um, I think there's this deep-rooted a lot of it comes from the relationship that we had with our parents in childhood, and were you rewarded for good behavior? Were you rewarded for doing the right things
Right.
and maybe punished for going off track or doing the wrong things or stepping out of line? And so then when you're an adult, even though that stuff happened in childhood, and even if you had a great childhood, you still have this ingrained uh like desire to please or to
Right.
live to other people's expectations or to do what you're told or do what is right, like all of these things that are ingrained in us as kids just so that our parents can be organized and you know have well-behaved children. Like it's just a whole thing. Then we grow up with this desire to please and take other people's expectations into account when we're making personal decisions for ourselves. It weighs very heavy, even though it's stuff that happened so long ago. But it's in those really formative years, right?
Right.
You're figuring out who you are and what you're allowed to do and what the consequences are of what you do. And you learn very quickly reward for things that other people want you to do, punishment for things that people don't want you to do. And so I think that
Do,
it sticks into adulthood for sure.
do you think the irony of what you went through was the education to recognize that, to actually make that transition?
That's really funny. It could be. Um, I think there was also just I was going through a lot of spiritual stuff at that time. And so recognizing some of these patterns from childhood that still existed in my adulthood and realizing that in order to this is getting very woo, but like in order to address the trauma and like make changes to make yourself happier, I had to do uncomfortable things. I had to
Right.
go against the grain. I had to potentially disappoint people. I didn't end up disappointing anybody, which was the thing. It was all in my head, you know? But I had to do the scary thing to just do what I knew in my heart was right. It was a lot of falling out of the brain and into the heart to just do
Wow.
what I knew I wanted to do, even though I didn't
I
know what I
think,
wanted to do.
well, I think there's just like a ton of entrepreneurs and, small business people and just people in general that need to hear that. I think and I'm guilty. For a lot of my career, I was caught up in being so concerned about what other people think. So it's
Mm.
good to know that I'm not alone, at least.
Yeah, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like outsiders, when they're going
Mhm.
through the traditional route to adulthood,
Right.
right? It's like you go to school and then you go to college and then you did, and a lot of us are like, this isn't,
Yeah.
that's
None
not,
of this makes
doesn't
sense.
fit. Yeah. And then you feel like, well, if it's the normal thing and if this is what everybody does, then there's something wrong with me. I'm weird,
Right.
until you find a community of other people like that. And you're like, oh my God, we're on to something amazing,
Yeah. Come to find out, the minority is really the majority, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, so you make that choice, and how did you end up making that choice and then getting to where you are now?
So, big, scary, risk-taking choices don't come without consequence. So my first job out of grad school was at $13 an hour. And even for 2014, that was not a lot of money. But it gave me freedom. Like, it was mostly remote. It was, I was doing like sales and operations strategy for a local business in Nashville. Um, and so it was a lot of like meeting with the owners, getting in the business and the back end and the data and, all the stats of their sales and seeing where they could improve and all this kind of stuff. So it was it was really good experience. It was not a lot of money, and but it kind of set me up. It was another one of those things where it was like I could say, I like this or I don't like this, or what do I like
Right.
about this and what don't I like about this, to keep forming what is right for Mary.
Right.
And so then after that, I got another job. It was a little pay bump, 20 an hour. But I
Okay.
was doing like marketing and office admin stuff for a couple home renovation businesses in Nashville. And that was really my first experience with marketing, and really getting into, because the business owner I worked with was a very good businessman. And so just learning from him and seeing how he approached sales, I got to see the whole, sales structure of his business, was really cool because I didn't get any of that in school, right? I studied
Right.
sociology. So all of my sales and marketing knowledge came from working with entrepreneurs who were running their own businesses, right?
Right. So in doing it.
Yeah. And then after that, a friend of mine was opening a fitness studio, and I came and worked for her and did marketing, sales, operation management, everything, hiring the team, training the team, setting sales goals,
The whole
training
thing.
the team on sales, the whole thing. And so that was really a great experience. I worked with that company at a couple different locations for 5 years, and that was like the best boots on the ground training and
Right.
sales and
Hands
marketing that you
on.
could ever get. Yeah, yeah. So none of it came from education. It all came from experience and doing and learning from people who knew what they were doing, like
Right.
mentorship. Yeah.
So now we're in this business. We've started helping people. And one thing that we talked about in our like pre-call, because we did a little soft pre-call, I do that with everybody, is you mentioned to me that your spouse spends some time on the road touring, and part of what you still have to do is you're raising the girls and you're marketing yourself and you have your business. How do you make time for all of it? I mean, how do we prioritize family, career? And then for me, it's also like it's that happy medium of doing the thing I love at the same time, the
Yeah.
thing that makes me happy. How do we prioritize that?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. So when I first got into the online space, I had been home with my daughter for 11 months with no job, and we just let my husband work his job. So I really got that like 11 straight months with my new baby, just focusing on that, which was such a blessing as a new mom to not have to worry about juggling so many things.
Sure.
And then COVID hit and his job was wiped out for a few years. And it very quickly, it went from me being like, okay, I'm kind of ready to get back out there and see what I'm going to do next to, oh my gosh, we have to move.
Yes, I have to be.
And
Now I'm ready.
yeah, so I'm ready. But having so many different skills, I knew there was a way for me to make money from home where I could still take care of her. But I could use my brain, my skills, my knowledge, my experience to make money from home without working, even 8-hour days. I just knew that there had to be a way. So it started with a website called flexjobs.com. You pay like a $50 membership to have access to the site for a year, and they post all kinds of flexible jobs. So some of them are flexible because they're remote. Some of them are flexible because of the hours. But the company who owns that site and operates that site does all of the like background check on the company. They make sure that there are no scams posted. So I was like, okay, because that's scary, right? If you Google ways to make money online, a lot of stuff comes up and not all of it is
Don't
good,
Google
right?
it.
Don't Google it.
If you're listening to this, just skip that. Go straight to the flex.com.
Yes.
Is that similar to like a Fiverr? Because I've never heard of Flex.
It's a little, if I remember correctly, because this is a while ago now, I don't think I had my own profile and like people could approach me for, it was more like an Indeed.com, but for flex jobs, for flexible jobs.
Understood.
So paid this $50 membership, was on the site for probably a month when I found my first gig. And she was a functional medicine doctor in Maryland. And I did like admin work for her for $20 an hour. And it was great. We got along great. I did everything from like updating her website, writing copy, writing emails, to like actually helping set up her first online program and all the modules and how it drips out and the whole thing, building it from the ground with her. It was really cool. And after working with her, we probably worked together a little under a year when I realized that the copywriting and the email marketing was really where I wanted to be. And so she and I transitioned to, I was her email marketer. And then it just went off from there. And
so
I
was that
became
your
more
first like real client?
That she was my first real client. Yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool.
Yep. And we're still friends on Facebook. We don't work together anymore, but we're still friends on Facebook. I support her. She supports me. She's amazing.
Wow.
But yeah, you started the question with like how balancing it all. So I was really lucky to have those first 11 months with my daughter alone, just the two of us. And so even though my husband was traveling, especially now that I have two kids, I'm like, one is so easy,
Yeah, two's a game changer. I don't know how people with three do it.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah, if you've got 3 kids, you're probably insane. We don't need you to subscribe. Don't like this. Don't share it. Just kidding. Just kidding.
But it was sort of like, as my business grew, I just knew I needed more help. So one of the like milestone goals in my business was I want to make enough that we can afford to send her to daycare. Right. And we found a really good daycare, where it's more like school, even for the young kids, right? There's a lot of education and learning and development.
Yep. Curriculum. That's what my wife used to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
So it was like I hit that first milestone and we were able to send her part-time. I think we started part-time. Yes, we started part-time. And then it was like I hit the next milestone and we were able to bump her up to full-time. And then it was like, okay, now I know we have this expense. There's no dipping below this. So how do I grow? Now that I have like the whole day to myself to work, how can I do personal branding, networking, client acquisition, and fulfilling the work in those hours between 9 and 4 when she's gone,
Right.
And I won't lie, there was some learning and some balancing acts and some parts where I failed on either the business front or the motherhood front. And I just think it's important to say, because people ask me that all the time, like, oh my gosh, how did you do this? And you've got 2 kids and you've grown this business and blah, blah. And it's like, it wasn't always perfect and I wasn't always doing it all well. And now the way that I've grown my business, and this is really, I credit my mentor Troy for helping me figure this piece out, is building that boutique agency model so that I can focus on the higher level stuff like strategy. I said at the beginning of this year, I wanted to be paid for my brain. And that's really what the agency allows me to do. I see the holes that the entrepreneurs don't see that a copywriter might not necessarily see. So it's like, I really work on the strategy, the overall picture. What's our goal? What's our plan? How are we going to tell if we're hitting our goals and da-da-da?
Right.
And then I have a copywriter who is also a list manager who can get in and write the copy, set it all up, schedule it all out, keep an eye on the list and the metrics and all that. And that has really been a game changer, because it allows me to not even work on the weekends anymore, which was always a struggle.
Sure, I hate working the weekends. I coach a couple sports, so you want to be with your kids. It's tough sometimes. How did you? Obviously, you've seen the need to hire someone, and you've seen the value. How hard was it to trade your time and flexibility for compensating that person?
Here's another situation where it's like there are consequences for getting what you want, right? I wanted the freedom and more time and to focus on the parts of the business that I really want to focus on. But right before, I think it was right before October, one of my clients let me go 6 days before the end of the month, laid off the entire team because they just didn't manage their money the right way and they had no idea they couldn't pay anybody. So they laid us all off. So that was $5,000 a month that in 6 days, I couldn't make up in 6 days either. Yeah. Gone. And trust me, I put some offers out there. I was like, I'll do this for $5,000. It was a lot.
Right.
But it was really hard to make that up. But I have a copywriter who works with one of my clients and then the copywriter list manager who works with a couple of our other clients. And I have a virtual assistant. And I was like, these people, I'm responsible for them. They are counting on, I can't go in and say, hey, don't work on this client this month because I'm going to do it because I need the money. Like, no, that's your client. I brought you in to help take care of this client of ours. That's your client. So there were October and November. I really only started to catch up again this month. So October and November, it was like, I don't know how we're going to make ends meet, but it's going to happen. But I am not paying these people. I am not letting anybody go. We will grow and build it back. I have no doubt. But that's a commitment I made, and those people rely on me. And not that because there could be a situation, one of our other clients could lay us off and that would be, my guy would lose that client anyway. Who knows? So it's not like they are expecting that this is guaranteed money every month. But in my mind, ethically,
most
morally,
people don't sit around and think about the bad thing that could happen. They're just focused on progress.
Yeah. So I took a financial hit, and I just had to be okay with that, because the people I have in place are really solid, and I'm so grateful for them that I'm like,
Yeah,
I'll
like we'll
take a
go through
financial
whatever
hit in
to,
order to keep
yeah,
the team together. Yeah.
yeah, that says a lot about you. So you are looking for new clients right now?
Yes, we are taking clients. Yep.
Yeah. So you can find
Oh,
Mary
thank you.
at www.thebusybell.com. That's Belle. How did you decide to have the extra E on there? Was the E, the
Oh,
other one
it's so
already
funny.
taken on the the domain?
No, but it was like, it was this play on words, because when I
I
first
love it.
started, I was like, oh, I help busy female entrepreneurs. Now
Right.
I'm not just niched with female entrepreneurs. Most of our clients are men. But so the name doesn't really fit anymore. And I've talked about this with some of my peers, and they're like, well, yeah, but you're the busy bell, so just
Yep.
keep it,
Yep.
So originally it was like the busy bell would be my clients, and I'm the one who helps them. But
I love it. And I agree with them. I
yeah,
think you
so
should keep it too. I think it's great.
yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
so kind of jumping into your business now, I want just kind of maybe a little rapid fire here. I want to answer some W's. The W's are my favorite thing on any person I talk to, is the W's. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, when we were reading through your bio there, it sounds like there's a whole range of people that you'll take care of. What are you looking for in a client? Who are they typically? What specialties do they have? Is there something that are there red flags that you'll see with a client and turn them down? Who are your clients?
Yeah. So, I really do love working with coaches, and that movement maker
Hmm.
kind of description is like people who are teaching other people skills to make money is who I really resonate with. Um, as corny as it sounds, like helping other people make money is like, that fills me up. Like, if I can
Yeah,
help my clients make more money, that makes me so happy. So working
yeah.
with people who also love to help other people make money, it just jives really well.
Kind of like the
Um,
reciprocal effect there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also finding it's funny, I feel like as my business matures, I keep ending up working with clients who are either marketers themselves, or they really, really understand marketing, which is really nice for us, because then I don't have to explain. Like, I can't work with clients who I have to convince that email marketing is important, or that
Right.
we're going to send a daily email.
If
Like,
I have to sell
if
you
I,
on it, you're not the right one for me.
right, right.
Yeah.
Um, we also work with entrepreneurs who are consistently growing their list. Like, even if you have a big, healthy list, if you're not going to continue
To grow it.
growing that and growing your audience, at some point we're going to reach a max, and you're going to be like, you're not making me any more money. But
Right.
that's because you need to keep growing the list.
Right.
Um,
It's a two-way street.
yeah, yeah. So people who understand how online businesses grow and scale is who we're working with. And we're working with a lot of entrepreneurs who are at that stage. Like, they made it to 7 figures on their own, and now they've started growing a team to help them scale and get to the next level. And that's, I
Right.
think, the sweet spot, because that's where like they have the basic setup, right?
Right.
And then we get to step in, and I get to tinker around and be like, oh, we're missing this teeny tiny thing, and it's going to make a huge difference. And let's pull this teeny tiny lever, and that'll make this huge difference. Which makes me look really good, but it's just these small little things that,
Right.
when you have a working machine, you just pull these little teeny tiny levers to make a huge difference. And it's stuff that they don't necessarily see. Or sometimes when I point it out to them, they're like, oh my gosh, duh. I'm like, yeah.
Right.
But when you're so in your business, you don't see it, And so to
Right.
have that other strategy eye on your business is really valuable to my clients.
What's the ad method?
The ad method is how we approach email marketing. So automations, daily emails, and deliverability. There's a lot more that goes into it, obviously.
Sure.
Strategy, cadence, the KPIs and the metrics and the goals, list hygiene and all of this. But this is another thing my mentor helped me just get very streamlined on. He's like, business owners don't necessarily need to know all the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to make more money from their email. They understand automations, daily emails, and deliverability are 3 key things that are going to help you make more money and more money on autopilot with email marketing. And he's like, so just make it that simple. I'm like, okay, it's that simple. So like forward facing, it's very simple. In the background, it's very complex, and my team handles the complexities there. And that's
Why
sort
would
of how
somebody... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. I was just going to say that's how I approach my business with my clients is like I want them to be able to, I don't want to say put in minimal effort, because a lot of them, especially as coaches, the knowledge and the wisdom comes from them. But I know that they're busy, and I know that the reason they're outsourcing email marketing to us is so that they don't have to think about it. And so we meet with them like once a month to really pull out new stories, new angles and stuff like that. But we take care of all of the nitty-gritty details without having to bug them every day of like, hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? Like, we just go in and do it. So that's sort of how I like to keep it simple for my clients, and we just handle the grunt work.
So I know enough about email marketing, but I don't know everything. I'm not an expert like you. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show.
Yeah.
My question is there a top secret way to stay out of the spam and actually end up in the inbox?
So the biggest thing, and people don't usually set this up until it's too late and they're going to spam, but the number one thing that we can do to get you out of spam is make sure that your DNS records are set up correctly. And so if we go in and we see your DNS records, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC are usually the 3 main ones that will get your email out of spam. But DNS records is first, making sure that you're not on any blacklists, any major blacklists. You can be on some minor ones that don't really affect deliverability. And I've actually like reached out to the people who are blacklisting and asked them to remove my clients before, and like have to explain how we think we got on there and how we've addressed the situation. Usually it's because people don't keep their lists clean.
Sure. Bad hygiene,
so they
right?
end up, yeah. So
is that from them not unsubscribing someone when there's a request?
It usually happens when people just don't generally understand proper segmentation and emailing like the most engaged people on your list. And so some of my clients, when we first come on board, they have an email list that they've been growing for 3 years or 4 years or 10 years, and they've never segmented properly. So they're just blasting all
Everyone.
20, 30, 100,000 contacts every time they email. And, if you end up emailing spam traps, then you get marked as spam, right? So like, if you're not doing any segmentation or cleanup or getting rid of bounced emails or fake emails or anything like that, then it's really easy to end up in spam. So DNS records, the blacklists, and list hygiene are like the top 3 things we do right away that usually take care of it. And then it's about maintaining. So once you've gotten out of spam, it's a continued job. Like you have to keep working on it, and you have to maintain it. It's not
What's
like
the
a
minimum
one-time fix.
amount of people an amount of emails you'd want to have on a list? Is there ever a minimum when we talk about segmentation as well, with accounting for that?
Like how many actual contacts are on the list?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
No, I mean, in order to like gauge whether things are significant, or like if you're making strategy decisions based on engagement and stuff like that, you want at least, I would say at least 1,000 on
Sure.
each whatever sending segment.
Right.
But if you've got a couple hundred, that would do. I've got a
Okay.
client who has a fairly small list. We've got like 1,300, and probably a little less than 800 of those are actually engaged. So that's who we mostly email.
That makes sense.
And so when I segment that into smaller bites, like I just sent an offer to 40 people on that list, and it's fine.
Yeah.
If you think about it, the smaller the segment, the more concentrated, the more specific the segment, the better the deliverability, because
Right.
you're sending them exactly something that's tailored to them. So
Right.
they're going to open it. They're going to click what's in there. They're probably going to reply if you ask them to reply. So yes, I don't think you can get too specific with segmentation, but you have to keep track and remember, who's on what segment and why and what this segment is. That's another
That's
thing we
probably
come
when it
into.
pays to hire someone like you, right?
Yeah, that's another problem we run into. We'll get in a client's ESP, and it's like they have 20 different lists and hundreds of segments. And I'm like, are you actually using any of these? So we do a lot of cleanup too at the beginning.
Well, I really appreciate you being on here, Mary. One thing I was going to ask as we kind of wrap up is, as an entrepreneur, is there anything that you would do differently now that you know what you know now from when you started?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think, and okay, we're going to tap into my woo-woo side a little bit again,
That's
because
okay.
there's so much advice out there. There's so many coaches, there's so many
Right.
strategies, there's so many tactics. And as I matured into my business, I realized that what feels good in my gut is usually always the right path. And if we look back at my whole adult life, right? Like leaving academia, that was a gut instinct and a gut decision and a heart thing, not a brain, not somebody telling me, not expectations of others. It was what was happening in my body that I was like, ooh, I got to do something else. I approach my business the same way now too. Like if I have a coach giving me a strategy like, hey, you should do this. And I'm like, that's not me. I won't do it. And I'll do my own thing. And it's a risk, but I find that when I double down on myself and what feels good to
Yes.
me, it works. It
I
aligns.
love
It
that.
attracts the
That's
right
perfect.
people, right? Yeah.
That's perfect. 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 Well, there you have it. Mary, you were an amazing guest. I would love to have
Thank
you
you.
back from time to time and catch
Yeah.
up with you, and definitely learn a little bit more from you. So today's big
That'd be so
takeaways
fun.
were, at least for me, don't let that piece of paper limit who you are and what you're capable of.
Mm,
Motherhood is a full-time job on its own. And if you're not using your email list, you're missing out on tons of revenue that's just waiting for you. Um,
absolutely. Great takeaways. You were listening.
I was taking notes the whole time. For me, this is more
Awesome.
for me than anybody else. So don't tell the listeners, it's a secret. Um, but thank you for being on here, Mary. We'll definitely catch up with you next time. I hope you have a nice day.
That sounds great. Thank you. You too.
See ya.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Another amazing guest. I'm so thankful for Mary's time. If you liked this podcast and you want to listen to more, you can find my podcast everywhere that podcasts are played. Also, check out my website. That's stsgmarketing.com. I'll see you guys next week with another episode. Thank you.
Sky, the service guy, staying up late at night, doing podcasts all the time, talking about service, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got the sales, do we got the knowledge to make a meal? We just paying bills, all we know is time will tell. Sky, the service guy.